Boo, boo, boo. Happy Halloween. Now, with that aside, we have disturbing reports today, unfortunately. And you know, coming from the pizza parlor, we never like to be the ones to give you bad news. Try to give you always the good news. Good news, but it is disturbing. It would appear that the magistrate on level 3 at the building of directory is directing the wrong type of magic to be administered within the ministry of said magic. That everyone doesn't think exists, but exists in a psychological state of manipulation and slavery. The aliens fly down and the reptile slithers slowly, but the word of Satan, well, never really existed. It was just rebellion and direct opposition to the ultimate authority of the Trinity. And so it turns out that Voldemort's rebellion might be more misunderstood than we may have thought, but pretty messed up and always as evil as we always thought it was in the beginning. Molecular math at the Quantum Fanatical Foundation suggests that no calculation could calculate or calcify any sort of fossils into a carbon dating system that could be trusted or never really could. But no matter who you ask, just remember the Grand Canyon was meteors and a flood mixed with a little bit of TNT and dino blood. Because the boys are back in town, but plot twist. They aren't going to Sweet Home Alabama because the tide never rolled harder than the tiger's eye. Let's just be frickin' honest. And if you don't believe me, then go ask Rocky Balboa or Apollo Creed or the Russian guy Rocky beat up and the one Apollo jumped way before that all happened. And if Nick Saban has anything to say about it, I'll call it trick play and Mad Hatter him into oblivion. Because nobody, and I mean nobody plays with Alice's boyfriend at the bottom of the rabbit hole. Go, Rudy, go. And well, that's just the truth. If you don't believe me, just go ask the Phantoms of the Opera or the candidate they ganked, or ask the legend himself. They say he may have existed sometime not too long ago. They tell stories of a man that was like a John who Dillingered all of the Dillon G's into a Dillinger, but swore and truthfully backed up the fact that he wasn't any sort of diddler, tit-tickler, or spit squibbler who desired to squibber or squibble over school, I believe, squabbles. And so they tickled and tickled and tickled. But it was the one being tickled who got the last laugh. Because being tickled to death is no fun no matter how much you laugh, and even if you laugh, you're still being tickled to death. So stop tickling me, Ricky, stop tickling me, Ricky. Because Mickey is not fine, and he does not blow my mind, but sometimes Goofy and Donald remind my lines of a time trapped behind binds and twined with signs of the end of time. And that's just the style of Harry's writing, or whoever wrote whose ever song, or whoever wrote whoever. But, so, here's the beginning that never ends because it never really did, and anyway, if you always believed, here's to it being closer because Jesus is so near, I can feel the celestial carbon cannon calibrating coolly, of course, into a collective, cohesive calibration, as expected of the expectation of the nation that broke off long ago when Paul Revere was flashing some sort of lanterns and calling for horse and Boston tea parties. It would appear, and ever seem so slightly, that parts of the math that make up the perfect programmer actually quantify into mechanical systems that ultimately reveal neutrinos that could potentially move faster than the speed of light to potentially chunk a pigskin with the power of Uncle Rico, but also with the ability to jump a fence like the Dynamite Man himself. And if you don't believe me, well then maybe you should have voted for Pedro all those years ago and bought the t-shirt. And so, my fellow Americans, Canadians, and Japanians, it brings my heart great, great, great sadness to say that in totalitarian conclusiveness, I'd like to wrap up by tying the bow on this thing and sprinkling the last sprinkles on this cake to bring it all to the point, to remind you that right in the beginning, that if you summarize everything that I'm saying and encapsulate it into the shortest nutshell statement that you could ever ask, and imagine that you could always see that at the start of nothing simple and everything true, there isn't any such choice. It could be complicated into complexion so complex that the truth was forgotten and the lie was believed. Yes, the lie was believed. And it still is. That people have to wake up. Because you're a sinner. And you're going to die in your sin. You're going to be separated if you don't. So believe and repent in the gospel. Because, and let's just be honest, it just doesn't win, man. They ain't gonna do it, man. That bông hoa mày. Bông hoa mày. No, home. Yeah, home.